Hi, I'm Donna, and in this video we're going to be looking at the knit cast on. This is the first in my series for providing you with a cast on toolkit, so a good little repertoire of cast ons that'll get you by with most projects. So the knit cast on, that is a 2-needle cast on. The hint is in the name. You need 2 needles to cast on with this. Now this is quite a simple or basic cast on that many of us learn as our first cast on or one of our first cast ons, and you probably don't realise it's just called knit or knitted cast on. So the main sort of characteristics of it is it will give quite a soft edge. It's got a little bit of elasticity in it. It's not particularly elastic because it will kind of pull out of shape quite easily. Now that actually, whilst that won't work for your bottom of your garment, that is actually a characteristic that can be very helpful. So thinking of things, projects where you want to block it out quite, they say aggressively, but I don't like that, but block it quite a lot, stretch out a lot. Thinking of like knitted lace, scarves, wraps, shawls, anything where you want a nice kind of fairly fluid soft edge and that will kind of pull out and stay out of shape, so it'll block nicely. It's also good for if your knitting requires that you're adding stitches to a row you've already got on the needles. So thinking of, I don't know, if you're making a t-shirt, a T-shaped kind of back for a garment, you'll want to add stitches for the T. So that's easy enough with this cast on. You can also use it for buttonholes, where you're casting on, you're casting off stitches and then you're casting them back on. I would say that it is not the best one for that because the edge is not really robust enough, and if you think if it is functioning buttons, you're going to use that edge quite a lot. So that's when you might want to use knit cast on. So let's stop talking, pull up a seat, pick your needles up, and let's get started with this one.
So first off, here is our knit cast on. That's what it looks like. It's quite straightforward to do. It's a 2-needle cast on. You don't need a long tail. All you need is to allow 4 to 6 inches so you can sew that edge in after you've finished. As with many, but not all, as with many cast ons, you're going to start with a slip knot. Now usually when I teach classes, as soon as I say slip knot, people haven't got a clue what I'm talking about, but they've probably been doing it for years. Okay, but I'll do it slowly to show you. So we make a loop, okay, and put that across the back, stick our needle in there, and then we can pull. That's why it's called a slip knot, because you can slip that up. Okay, so having now got that in play, another tip I'll give you is that end, I would stick that between your fingers and your needle in your left hand, and that speaks the voice of experience, who usually manages to end up knitting with that end instead of the working yarn. So knit cast on is like it sounds. If you've done that a bit tight like I have, you can just loosen it. You go in as if to knit, okay, wrap your yarn round, and then we're gonna pull that loop through, and at this point you make a decision as to when we're going to transfer this stitch over from our right needle to our left. You can either go purlwise like that, or you can bring this tip round to the front and grab it that way, knitwise. Okay, and if you want a firmer edge, I would suggest you do it that way. And there's another benefit of that, because what you'll find is, now that I've done that, I'm actually already lined up to do the next stitch. So rather than have to take my needle out and then go back in there for the next one, I was already in position. And I'll show you that again. So wrap your yarn round, pull that loop through, bring your needle to the front to pick up that loop. Okay, and in the process of that, my needle is now in the right place to do the next one. Okay. I'm sorry there's no music, you're just going to have to la-li-la to yourself there. But just, so carry on doing that. Try not to get too tight. 2 needle cast-ons don't generally get too tight. You can always go up a needle size if you find you're struggling. You don't want to be kind of making the yarn squeak as you're working. And do about 20 stitches. Make this a swatch worthy number of stitches, because you know, you might want to save your swatches, as I discussed in the last video, to put them on a card or something with notes, so you've got a very easy visual reference of these cast-ons. Save you having to scrabble for a book or get online when you're making decisions. Okay, so carry on. I would, as I say, do about 20. I'm gonna kind of speed. You can see I'm naturally just speeding up now. It doesn't have to be too slow, this cast on. So when you're happy you've got enough stitches, we'll take a look. So that's your cast on. Now these cast on stitches don't count as a row. Some cast ons do count as your first one. So when you start knitting, you're going to start with a right side row, and we already made the edge a little bit firmer by the way that we transferred our stitches across from the right to the left needle. But if you want to add a bit more firmness on that first row, if it's a knit row, knit into the back of the loop. Instead of going to knit like you normally would, make sure you actually go into the back of that loop. Okay, and do that with every stitch across the row, and you will find it's going to firm up that edge. Okay, it'll feel a bit funny because it feels like that stitch is a long way, the back loop is a long way back, and that's partly because we already kind of twisted the stitch as we transferred it over. Okay, so carry on with that till you've got to the end, and I will fast forward as if by magic. La 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 la. Do. There, the magic of camera. So here we have it. I have done a few rows. Can you see how that certainly adds something? It's not actually unattractive, is it, that edge? So depending on what you're knitting, you know, you can decide whether to do that kind of knit through the back loop on that first row or not. It will firm up that edge, certainly. I mean, you can see it's quite a bit firmer than the sample I did without knitting into the back loop. Okay. So that's the first of 7 methods for our cast on toolkit. Do join me next time, and I'll be looking at cable cast on, so that's another 2 needle cast on. And just to remind you, this is a part of a series. At the end of the series, I'll collate all the videos, all my notes, etc., put it in a PDF that will be free to download. The link for that will mysteriously appear once that's completed, or do join my email list and I can let you know as soon as that's out. Okay, so yeah, till next time, don't forget, bring your needles and your yarn, and hope to see you then. Bye bye.